Welcome in, everybody, to the Summit City Sports Report. We got head coach Ben Johnson from the Northside Legends in the house, along with Tim Atkinson. Northside going on the road to Northridge. Absolutely beautiful complex that they have over there. The Raiders with that sparkly stadium, their softball and baseball field all right there in the complex. But they couldn't handle the Legends as Northside traveled up there and got the 32-20 win against Northridge. Coach Johnson, congratulations on that victory. I know last year with Northridge coming to Northside, a lot of people thought the Legends would get that victory, but Northridge is an established team. They've been to state championship games, and not a whole lot of people were showing you guys a whole lot of love going into last Friday, but you went up there and really showed the Raiders what it was all about here in the 2024 season. So just take us through that game. You had to be just super pleased with your team's performance.
First and foremost, I want to say thank y'all for having me today. Just going into Middlebury, if you haven't been there, if you haven't experienced a football game there, they really do it right up there. When we pulling in, I mean, it was fans everywhere, tailgating. I mean, it was like a big community. I just felt like everybody that lived there was at that game. So the atmosphere was just crazy for a first game, and it gave you like the Friday night lights feel being there. And our kids just went in there. They wasn't intimidated at all. You know, we were supposed to win that game last year. So our kids, our senior class, had a big chip on their shoulder throughout the whole off season and the summer. Want to get that game back.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. And Coach, you brought back a ton of players. And Caleb Kingley is obviously somebody that I've been keeping my eye out on. You got him back at running back, which he played in middle school. And boy, did he come through for you on Friday night. 28 carries for 211 yards with a touchdown. In my mind, that's just a sign of things to come from the young sophomore. But last year, he was more of your space player, kind of a slot running back or wide receiver. Now you got him back at running back. And I know you showed a lot of love to your offensive line on Facebook. But, yeah, just the whole group as a whole. Caleb at running back, the offensive line, did they exceed expectations?
Oh, man, our offensive line exceeded expectations. We graduated, some key guys last year, in Tank and, Jordan King that's at Purdue now. When you graduate a 4-year senior and a 4-year player in Jordan King, you get a bunch of question marks going into the season of who was going to step up and lead that group. And, one of our senior captains is Devontae Harris Moore. He's been the one that's leading that group. Then we got, Tobias Delaney and, Quincy Smith. And then guys like Micah Moore stepped up. He was a JV player last year as a sophomore. I never thought that he would be a starter this year and playing very well. And then we got a very, very talented center in Darian Goodwin. That's a sophomore. That's in that sensational sophomore class. Man, I think he can definitely be big time. That's handling the snaps every snap, and he's adjusting. He came in as a defensive player, and he's bought in on knowing that with his size and his skill set is center could take him places than the other side of the ball can. So with those five working together, with Caleb, man, I mean, you had him at Northwood, so you know the type of kid he is.
Yes.
That kid is a worker. I mean, sometimes you got to tell him to ease up a little bit. Like this drill is just 60, 70%. He don't know what that means. He's always 110, 120% full go. Last year when he came in as a freshman, I mean, the kid is so humble. I mean, his brother put out YouTube videos of him when he was in middle school. I mean, his stuff was just blowing up everywhere. Like everybody wanted that kid. It was just a blessing that we had a brother on the team already. So just like, you coming to Northside, but that kid is the most humble, talented, hardworking, he would do anything if I asked him. If I told Caleb, hey, you playing left guard and we're going to be pulling you all night, he would do it to the best of his ability. Um, so just last year when he came in, we had 3 seniors that was playing running back, and he worked so hard. It was just like this kid is too talented to not, play him on varsity. So he had a skill set of catching the ball. So I was just like, because he's a little shorter, I thought it would be a good idea for college coaches to see him be able to run routes and catch passes. And then, once we got into this year, he was able to move back to his natural position at running back. And, the work showed. I mean, that kid is, if I pull up where he lives right now, I'm pretty sure he's outside doing cone drills by himself, him and Josh. So, I wasn't shocked by his performance at all.
Yeah, and coach, looking at it, I mean, 28 carries he had in the first week. Is that something you're going to try to keep an eye on this year, or is it like you said, he's prepared so well to take the hits and take the rushes that you can continue feeding him the ball 25 to 30 times a game?
So at the end of the season, me and him, we sat down and I told him, this it's your time now. You need to put on a little bit more weight. You need to get in the weight room. I mean, it was stuff that he was already doing, but just after that conversation we had, he had one of the best off seasons. I mean, the kid, if you look at him, he take his shirt off, he doesn't look like he's a sophomore. He look like he's a senior. So it was just like I was like, let him know, like, hey, I didn't think he was going to get about 28 carries. It just played out like that. We got the ball late in the fourth quarter. We were on a 95-yard drive, and it just every time he touched it, he just got stronger and stronger. So we just, the O-line was feeling it. We was in a rhythm. Then, when you get on the bus and you're looking at the stat line, you're just like, oh, my God, Caleb had 28 carries. And he never slowed down, And we haven't rode a guy like that since Jonte Lambert.
Yep.
So, that's something that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on because I need him fresh once playoffs come around. And we got some tough opponents in our sectional in Warsaw, Concord, and Goshen. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, definitely going to, make sure that we ain't running them into the ground before, the real season starts.
Right. Well, and it also helps that, of course, the big question mark, who's Northside going to have at quarterback this year?
Yeah.
You moved Tristan Newsome, who has played quarterback in his past. How about the stat line from him? Not only 211 yards rushing for Caleb Kingley, he had 15 carries, 132 yards, and was 12 of 16 passing for 205 yards. What a debut for a senior that hasn't played quarterback in 4 years to step in a hostile environment in Northridge and put up those type of numbers. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, Tristan is a very poised kid. He's one of the smartest kids in our program. And he came in his freshman year. He played quarterback his entire freshman season. And in his sophomore year, it's like he's 5'9", and we're like, he wants to play college football. So, we told him, like, it's probably not going to be quarterback, son. So, and he's very fast. He had a school record in 100-meter-yard dash. So we were just like, it's either you have to play slaughter DB, plus Bodie Dickerson, had moved in the north side. So it worked out where he could start safety as a sophomore, started as a junior. He had a great season at safety last year. So coming into this year, he has a bunch of film for colleges. All colleges are aware of him. And, this senior class just want to win. And they're for each other. They're willing to sacrifice what their natural position would be in order for the team, to have success. And Tristan Newsome is, he's leading that charge. And, at first it was just kind of like, Coach, can I still play a little bit DB? And I'm just like, I need you to focus on offense and offense need to be efficient. I mean, we got athletes. If we need you, we'll play you there. I had him return a couple kicks this past Friday. He was punt returning. I mean, Tristan will do anything I ask him to do. So as far as just his performance, he worked so hard over the summer at it. I wasn't really shocked. I was shocked with, some of the deep balls he threw. There was some pretty balls he threw, man. A lot of people don't think that he can throw, but the kid got a nice little arm on him. So it's gonna have to, defense is gonna have to decide what they want to take away, because he could take off and fly right by you, or if you load up the box, I mean, we got the receivers to run by you, and he can get it out there. So it's gonna make our offense exciting. We just got to stay focused and keep working hard and protecting the football too as well.
Coach, we had a post here from the Northside Football on Twitter, and we got our offensive line here. Do you feel like you got good depth on the offensive line? Because as you stated, you're going up against a 6A opponent this week, and then it's not going to get any easier with your schedule. You pick up with Dwenger, which was a great game a year ago in week number 3, getting back into the SAC, but looks like a good group of kids right here. Do you feel like you got depth at that position?
This is the first time since I've been here in 4 years. This is the most depth that we do have at that position. At that position, those kids, again, and Coach LB does a great job with our offensive line. Those dudes, they're in the weight room. They go out to the practice field together. They leave the practice field together. They trust each other. The communication is just awesome. It just, they heard the rumblings of, the Jordan Kings and Tanks and, being gone, and, they pride themselves on being better than those guys were last year. So it's just one of those things where, they love each other. They playing for each other. The running backs and the QB show them love. The receivers show them love. And, I think when you got that going, those guys are going to block harder for you. Yeah.
Yeah, we all like to feel appreciated. That's for sure. Coach, on the and I just wanted to go back and speak to what you said about Caleb. When I watched a couple of your 7-on-7s scrimmages in the summer, and when he wasn't on the field, he was playing a toss with somebody on the sideline. Like he couldn't really just stand still. He always had to be doing something to better himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely,
that's him.
Yeah. Yeah,
we
I
could
saw
be doing
that as
special
well.
teams. We could be doing special teams, and I had to take him out kickoff just because I gotta save his leg somehow, and he's off to the side, with the running back coach just cutting through bags, and he's never sitting still, man. Like it's just like, dude, like sometimes chill a little bit, If it was up to him, we'll go full go in practice, full, he wants to be tackled. I've been coaching for 10 plus years now, and I've never seen a kid, especially at his age, that wants to go old school all the time. Like, let's go for a pass. I don't care about getting tackled in practice. I got to get used to it anyway. Like, that's just his mentality. And I'm just like, dude, like, we need you for Friday. Like, in the scrimmage, he was a little upset because he wasn't getting touches, but I'm just like, August 23rd, I need you fresh. We might have to ride you a little bit. And like I said, just his hard work paid off, man. I'm not shocked at all. People ask me, how do you compare him to Jonte Lambert? And I just can't. Like, he's just Caleb and Jonte is Jonte.
Right.
Like, I don't want to get into the, who impressed you the most. Like, both of those guys were just really good and really talented, and they just worked hard. And I think because of the relationship they have with the O-line, our O-line want to block for them and want to see them do well. So I think that's the key.
And it's hard to compare Coach to Lambert, who is a record holder.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, people don't understand. Like, Jonte ran for like 357 on Homestead.
Yeah,
like that game still plays in my brain.
Right.
And one of his runs was like a 60-some yard run, and like a freakish play happened. The ball just flew out his arm, so he loses all those yards. He goes for like 420 on the ground if he don't lose a ball at the end of that run. So
from my recollection, there was two of them. Yeah, there was two of them that the yards went null and void. He had a little bit of fumble issue, but he took it to heart. I remember that that game. But Coach, before we move to the defense and some of these top level players, and some Indiana State ranked kids, the wide receiver Malik Moore, outstanding. Jamari Pearson, talk about two weapons to have outside for Newsome to throw to. Malik Moore, high ceiling. Pearson's also getting those high level looks. Talk a little bit about that duo.
Man, it's again, that's those two guys. They have a ton of experience from playing last year. Malik started every game for us as a freshman last year, led us in receiving. Jamari also started, both ways for us last year. Just those dudes feed off each other. Again, just like with Caleb, they're hard workers. They get hard on themselves when, if they drop a ball in practice. I don't even have to say like, hey, you got push-ups. They just do it. And then also what I love about them is they take pride in blocking. It's these days, these kids, if they're not catching the ball, they don't really want to do nothing else, but when we're running the ball, you see them blocking downfield. I mean, they're trying to get pancakes as receivers. And sometimes they get called, holding calls. But for me, it's like, hey, I want you to be physical. I want the opposing, corners that's out there on you to be fearful of you. So I just love how they feed off each other. And, it doesn't matter who's getting the most targets. For them, it's about the team. And it's just crazy how last week they both kind of pretty much had the same stat line, like 4 catches for 70 plus yards and a touchdown. Both their touchdowns was very similar. So, yeah.
That's outstanding. But, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I was going to say we're moving to the defensive side over here, Coach. And Josh Masasu, ever since his sophomore year, has just been one of the most reliable linebackers, at least Tim and I have felt, in the SAC. So off topic real quick, how similar is Josh Masasu and Caleb Kingley, who are brothers? Are they similar or opposites?
They're very similar. Josh could actually play running back. Josh, this is serious. Josh played running back his freshman year, and his sophomore year we had Jonte, and it was like Jonte's never coming out unless one leg falls off. So it was like, Coach, I can play linebacker. I'm fine. Like, and I'm like, can you get in one scout team practice? We was just like, yeah, he's a linebacker for sure. And he led our team in tackles as a sophomore.
Yeah. And,
ever since then, he's just, he's been that guy on defense that's been leading the defense for the last 3 years. Last year he wrestled, got his body, man, just slimmed all the baby fat off of him. Like now he is sideline to sideline. We're dropping him back in coverage at times. He's just trying to show college coaches that he's versatile. But yeah, he's another one when it came to this offseason. He took wrestling serious. And, he was able to cut some of the little other baby fat off of him, and all it did was just make him more faster and athletic. And he's already as strong as Ox. So it's a great combination to have when you're linebacker go sideline to sideline.
Yeah, and when you look at that, Josh's body, I don't feel like you see that very often in football, where he's so dense. When the two objects collide, he's definitely not going backwards. Yeah. Do you see that on the field? Do college coaches recognize that about Josh?
Oh yeah, I just wish if he was 2 inches taller.
I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like he would be in the MAC for sure. At one of these MAC schools, if he was just 2 inches taller, he's one of those that I wish measurables wasn't an issue for, like Tristan Newsome.
Right.
Because them dudes, they play at the level of what college coaches want the measurables to be.
Yeah.
It's just, the good Lord just didn't give them those measurables, that I wish that they had. And because if they did, they would be top players in the state for sure.
Yeah, Tim and I saw that this past weekend with Marcus Bell Jr. from Warren Central, who was the MVP of the whole game and is not even close to being rated as high as almost half his teammates.
Yeah, I mean, because he's surrounded by guys that's 6'4", 6'3".
Right.
Yep.
And, I mean, if you turn the tape on, you would think outside of Shanklin, he's probably their second best defensive lineman. But, when you're a college recruiter and you're getting paid $700,000, $800,000 to coach D-line, do you want to bring a guy in that's 5'10", 5'11", or you want to bring the guy in that's 6'3", 6'4"? Right. And most guys don't pick the 6'3", 6'4". It's unfortunate, but that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to, the Division I level.
Yeah, one player that doesn't have to worry about his size is James Early Jr. Big kid. Very impressed with him last year as a junior. Had a great season, up to the 28th ranked now in the state. What a game he had! 9 total tackles, 6 of those being solos, 2 tackles for loss. What an outstanding weapon that is to have on your defensive line in front of the likes of Josh Masasu.
Oh yeah, James have 2 years of experience. Last year, he really stepped it up and showed that he can be a high level player. And then again, like this off season, going 3-7 just wasn't fun. And those kids know what it felt like going 8-3, and that was still a disappointing season because we didn't end the season with a championship. So they just understood, just what it takes, and it takes what it takes. That's Nick Saban, phrase is, we can't shy away from the work. And James was a kid that he didn't play basketball last year. He wanted to bulk up, and then track season came. He was out there running the 100-meter dash and a 200, and he wasn't on varsity, but he was competing on the JV level versus skill type kids, just to get faster, and it has served him well. I mean, the kid gets off the ball so fast, and his length, he's using his hands better now. Northridge was getting to a point where they were watching where he was lining up, and they were trying to run completely opposite from the second half. I mean, we had to move him inside because, James was being dominant. And then the other kid that's on the other side of him is Leslie Woodson. This kid is going to be really, really good. His brothers is, Jalen and Rod Smith. Right. I mean, he's probably bigger than Jalen right now as a sophomore. He's coming along very well. And like I said, having James on one side and him on the other side, they're wreaking havoc.
Yeah, Woodson's been talked about leading up to this year. That is for sure between Jeff and I.
Yeah, you talk about that quick first step by James Early. We saw it from Leslie Woodson at the Traction AP Showcase last March, where for his size to be that quick and agile does not look very normal on a high school football field.
Oh yeah, he tells like Caleb all the time, like, if you wasn't here, I'd be Derrick Henry too. Like, I can't.
I love the comment.
Like, dude, just go get some sacks, man. He got running back on wide. Go get some sacks for us. Yeah, man. He's a big kid, tall, very strong. They was in Texas for the last 4 or 5 years, and getting to talk to him, and it's a huge difference in Texas. Like, those kids are on high school programs in the 6th grade. So, he came in already swole up, just ready to go. And I'm just like, did this just happen overnight? But no, like, he's explaining to me, like, the differences between what they get to do in middle school in Texas compared to here, and how it is, in Texas in high school. You'll have a class for 2 periods, and it's just for football. And that's coaches able to watch film with you, lift. I mean, it's just different. So he came in and he was just already ready to go. I mean, like he's built like a senior, at 15 years old. It's amazing. But yeah, he's gonna be one that, because James is gonna get so much attention that he's gonna get those one-on-ones, and you're gonna be seeing him on the highlight zone for sure.
What was one of the biggest reasons that the family decided to bring Leslie back to Fort Wayne?
So Jalen just had a baby, and his parents, they was already like missing Fort Wayne, even like once they moved down there. And all their family is here. So it was just like, as the kids is getting older, high school's coming up, and it's a very tight knit family, and they just love being around each other, supporting the kids, the nieces and nephews. So it'll just be easier just to move back to Fort Wayne than people having to fly down to Dallas all the time, to see the boys. Because it's a younger one that's in middle school right now. And he's going to be really good too.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
He's going to be. He's only in the 7th grade.
Okay.
He already has size on him. He plays basketball too. He's like a little young Zach Randolph in the post. And,
okay.
He's going to be a beast on that D line as well. So yeah, it's another one too that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the stats, I mean, Woodson had 4 tackles alone in that Northridge game. It was real. Besides early, it was pretty spread out. So we only watched a little bit of the game film where we could. It seems like it's not It's not James Early and Masasu. It goes across sideline to sideline from line of scrimmage back to that third line of defense. That seems like it's going to be a strength for you, Coach, in the long run.
Yeah, and honestly, y'all, we are very, very young.
Yeah.
We're starting a lot of sophomores, which I knew was going to happen because we had a really great freshman class last year. And these dudes they're just different. They're just hungry. They just locked in the off season and was just like, because my mentality is this: like I'm always senior driven. But, it's the spots is going to go to the hardest workers on the team. So I don't care if you're a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, a senior, the best player is going to play. The hardest worker is going to play. The kid that we know that's going to do the job that is coached to do is going to play. And, some kids that's younger benefit from that. So just if you look at all 3 levels, I mean, we only started 1 senior in the secondary. That was Jamari Pearson. And then, at linebackers, we only started 1 senior, and Josh Masasu. And, those kids, they just took the offseason, they just took it, to work hard. And, we changed up our scheme defensively, so they're not thinking so much. They're just reacting and just flying to the ball.
Yeah, and DeMarcus Landers, just a sophomore there, tying James Early with a team high 6 tackles, kind of proves to your point, number one, the sophomore class, how good they are, and number 2, how young you are in that third on the third level there on the defense. But Landers coming up with 6 tackles. Tell us a little bit about DeMarcus Landers that most people probably haven't seen yet.
This is Devon Haney's little brother. So another family member that's in the program. He was a freshman last year, and we saw a lot of bright spots in him that we just knew, like, okay, going into next year, he's probably going to have a spot on varsity. And he's a very versatile player. He could play corner, he could play receiver, and the kid loves to tackle. And I mean, he could have had 2 picks. He dropped one that like hit him in his hands. He came up to me and was like, "Coach, that will never, ever, ever happen again, ever again." And I'm just like, "Never say never." He said, "Oh no, never again." And he came up big in the 4th quarter with a pick that he almost took it back, for a pick 6. He got all the way back to the 10-yard line. He got pushed out of bounds. I thought he was going to house that thing, man. He's a very, very dynamic player, man. That a kid that if we needed him to play receiver, we could. And he's just another one. Like, just I play anywhere. You know, he could play quarterback if we needed him to. He could spin it as well.
And then, Coach, we saw this with Warren, but they had Shanklin actually as their kicker. You got a freshman kicker right now. Is this somebody you feel like you can rely on for the next 4 years?
No, he's actually a junior.
Okay.
Sovion. Yeah, this kid, he transferred in out of the state of Wisconsin. Yeah, he is really good. He can kick it from about 40 to 45 yards. So this is like our first time like having somebody that can be consistent for us, which we're gonna need again come playoff time. We also got a young lady named Melina Cheesebrew that can kick as well. So she's gonna get her opportunities, in the future on some PATs, stuff like that. But yeah, Sovion is he's pretty good.
Yeah, Cheesebrew she plays soccer as well, right, Coach?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
she's on the girls' flag football team. She's a quarterback. So I don't know if y'all gonna ever get involved in the girls' flag football thing, but she's a quarterback.
Yeah, and would be one of the first SAC kickers since Michelle Hurst there at Wayne, 4 years ago or 4 years ago. So that's always a cool thing to see, and there's no doubt about that. But yeah, talking about your defense, they're going to have their hands full come this Friday. Before we get into Lawrence North here real quickly, it's the first home game at Chambers Field with the new turf. You're starting 1-0. The fans I expect to be out there in full force. I know you do as well. You gave the shout out to the fans that showed up at Northridge, which I know is appreciated. That defense is going to be they got some weapons over there for Lawrence North, starting with Davion Chandler at the IU commit, who's a 10th ranked player in the state of Indiana, returning quarterback as well. There was some split time last year, but it looks like Aspelette. I'm going to have to get that name before we start on Friday night. Had an outstanding year as well. Could turn the ball over a little bit. But returning running back in more almost 1,150 yards as a freshman. Yeah. They really have some outstanding weapons at Lawrence North, Coach.
Oh yeah, they are very, very athletic on every level. Yeah. Defensively, they are coming. The D line is, they got like two James Earlys on the D line. Linebackers flow. They hit you when they get there. Those DBs, I also coach track as well. Those DBs are on that 4x1 team, including Davion Chandler. So all those dudes are back. And then they got the 6'5" receiver that's blowing up. I think he's like the number 1 player in the class of 27. He caught a touchdown pass last week too on a jump ball. They have talent. Last year we went down there, and if you just look at the score, you just think that we went down there and they gave it to us, but we were tying the game up on the half-yard line. We ran a quarterback sneak behind Jordan King. Dylan Shaw was in the end zone. They said his helmet was coming off, and then it was like the time went out for us to tie up the game. Our kids battled, and we didn't have Tay that night. So our kids know their speed. We were young last year. They were young last year. Our kids feel like they could play with them. Our kids are not intimidated by them, but we also respect them. They are very well coached. Again, they are very fast. This is going to be, a very, very electric game. And, the team that is not the discipline the most is the ones that's going to get hurt the most. So, that's what we preached today. We just went helmets only. It was very, very hot outside, but it was just, we have to stay disciplined because one wrong move, Davion is electric, man. That kid is one cut and could take anything to the house. The running back is one cut, could take anything to the house. So we got to make sure that we get all 11 red helmets to the ball and we tackling those guys. And, offensively, we just can't turn the ball over. Last week we did a great job at doing that by not turning the ball over and just making sure that we protect the ball and, control the clock. Just make them play our game when we don't play their game.
Coach, when you see schools like Lawrence North and compete against them as you did last year, do you feel like your program is close to the indie school level as far as your, I guess maybe your first string of talent is concerned? Because, we being out at that game and seeing Warren Central on Friday, these indie schools, their enrollment is usually twice the size of any of the schools in Fort Wayne. And you feel like, pound for pound, our starters can really hang with their starters, but then they just have so much depth. But when you look at your lineup, so I think some people could argue that Northside's starters might even be more talented.
Yeah, man. I think that the comparison comes from like athletes wise. I think Fort Wayne and Indy is very similar. I think where the drop off is in the trenches, because those schools have more depth in the trenches. So you will see. Now you probably didn't see this out of Warren Central, but like if you watch the Center Grove game,
they rotated coach 3 at a time sometime for Warren Central. Yes, they did.
And they got the kid that's going to LSU,
correct,
Louisville.
Yep.
The Finch kid, his daddy was Jeremy Finch. He was the number 1 player in the nation, back in 06.
Went to Florida.
Went to Florida. Here you go.
That's when Florida was competing for national titles too.
Right.
Yes, Urban Meyer days. So they're still rotating those guys out, and the guys they're putting in is just as strong. They just don't have the measurables. Right. So you getting fresh bodies, and that's just the difference. It's just like when Carroll plays Center Grove, Carroll have the athletes to go up against Center Grove. I just think just the trenches, they have more depth. And it's like, how did we get there? It's I don't really have an answer. It's just getting the kids out, showing them love, and get them to understand that, you got to take that weight room serious when you come in as a freshman. You can't just turn it on your junior year. Mm-hmm. Those weightlifting programs, I visited these schools and see like what they got going on. And it's amazing. These kids are on programs when they in the 7th grade and they coming in benching 275, as a freshman. It's remarkable. And when you got 8 or 9 guys in your D line that you can just interchange, and then on your offensive line, you averaging 275, 280 across the board, and they juniors and seniors, and they've been in the weight room. It's a tall task, and I think Snyder, when I watched a little bit of their game, they're playing guys a little bit more both ways this year.
Yeah.
Warren doesn't have to do that.
No.
So
they're only doing that. They're only doing that when they choose to. It's not out of necessity.
Yeah. So when we played Lawrence North last year, they wasn't doing it either. Right. That Davion kid could probably play some safety or some corners, but they have them, man. I mean, they have an enrollment of 2,800 kids. You shouldn't need kids playing both ways. Right. To me, that's a problem. Right. So that's just what it is, and I think it's good for our kids because our kids think if they're just Fort Wayne good, they should be Division I. And I tell them all the time, listen, if I'm IU's receiver coach, right? Who they say is the best players in the state, they always say, the MIC is the best conference. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like I tell my kids, if I'm an IU coach, I'm watching this game Yeah, I'm gonna watch the Northridge game, but I'm definitely watching when you guys play Lawrence. I want to
Yeah.
see what can you do against those players and that speed and that power and that athleticism that they have. And if you go out there and you dominate them, you know, now you talking, are you worthy to play Division 1 or not? So that's the measuring stick. You know what I'm saying? So and I'll try to get our kids to understand it's not about just being Fort Wayne good, man. You got to be better than those players that's in Indy, those kids that are eating and sleeping football 365. Even when you're in a different sport, I preach doing different sports. You still got to be doing things like, going to the tractions or going to the OPSs and, getting you a trainer and staying in the weight room. I know you took strength training for 2 years, but you need to take it a third year,
Mm-hmm.
and just doing them extra 100 push-ups and sit-ups at nighttime it's just gonna pay off, because you're just always getting compared and contrast to the kids in Indy, and we can talk all night about that, but
Yeah.
I just tell them all the time, you're competing against the kids in Indy and also the transfer portal now, which is just harder for the high school kids.
Right.
So, for the ones, I probably got about 15 kids that tell me all the time they want to play Division 1, which is extremely hard to do. I'm telling them that's in my speech. If you want to impress a college coach, you do it on this coming Friday.
Right.
Because
Right.
they have 4 guys over there. They got a DN that's Division 1 that's going to Ball State. I think the safety that committed to Ball State. Davion is going to IU.
Yeah, they got
And
one going to Maryland.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it just they got dudes, and that quarterback is good. He's 6'4". I don't know if he's getting recruited or not, but he can sling it. Like he's really, really good. So we're gonna have our hands full. That coaching staff does a great job, and we have to be 99.99% on every single play.
Yeah.
Can't make no mistakes.
Coach, when the 2 open spots opened up for you in week 1 and week 2, and did you seek out Northridge and Lawrence North? Were you happy with the 2 selections that the program made? How did all of that play out? Because then when you look at Northridge and Lawrence North, you kind of got 2 different programs, definitely from the class, but I just think it's a unique mix of 2 opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When it came out that it was official that we had to find 2 games, just being honest with you guys, that was very, very hard to do. It wasn't a bunch of people just picking up the phone and just willing to play you because it was open, and a lot of it had to do with one. Most places already have their schedules
Right.
booked out 6+ years from now, so it's like we don't need an opponent. Also, you got to think like the other side has to think, is this a good game for us? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like they're not just gonna, pick you up if they don't think it's a good game for them, whether they feel like they can win it or not, or just whatever. So I just knew what I didn't want to happen is we had to travel 3 hours for a game. Like that's just what I did not want to do for a Friday night. I actually missed the old format. I just thought the old format was just unique. With the fans not having to travel far, and you just always, like not playing Snyder just doesn't even feel right. Like
Right.
that week
Right.
1 matchup when we played Snyder was just electric. That
Yeah.
it brought the whole city to the game, and it was just one of those things. So last year it was just different, not playing them, and we have been used to playing them, week 1. But I like it because we had to get on that bus last Friday for an hour and a half. And when you get in the playoffs, I don't think you want to experience that for the first time.
Yeah.
Come sectional or regional. I think that's something that the kids need to feel. Like they need to know like what it's like to go on a road trip, get off the bus, be tight, get loose. You know what I'm saying? Get ready to play a game. And going to Lawrence North last year, it taught us that we was on the bus for like 2 hours and 15 minutes. Last week was like an hour and 35 minutes. I mean, going up to Middlebury is all those back roads. And
right.
It just felt like a long trip,
Yeah. A lot of stop and go.
Yeah, so it was just a whole lot of that was going on.
And
so
then don't get behind an Amish buggy. You don't want to get behind an Amish buggy.
We saw a lot of road apples out there. You know what I mean? So
if you're from Fort Wayne, you better know what that means.
They did not care that we was behind them neither.
Yeah, and coach, to your point about the travel, because in 5A in Fort Wayne, there's nothing. So you have to. You're going to have to travel. At the closest is probably Warsaw. So
is Warsaw closer than Goshen? Which one is closer?
Warsaw's an hour. I think Goshen's more like an hour and a half.
Okay, so I was explaining that to the kids. We don't know how it's going to be set up. Right. It might get set up. We got to go 2 aways back to back for a sectional semifinal and a sectional final. So, because the kids were just like, man, we got to ride a bus again. And I'm like, look, y'all got to get used to it. This is what it is. And then the regional would be either like Lafayette, Jeff, McCutcheon, Kokomo. I can't think of the 4th team that's in that sectional, but that's another hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on, who we play for regional if we make it. So yeah, we're the only lone 5A school, in Fort Wayne. And
on the small side of the 5A too, right? I mean, enrollment wise, you guys aren't at the top of 5As. Am I right by saying that?
We were the bottom school.
That's
at
what I
1460. Southside was 1459.
Oh wow!
Whoa!
So Southside was the highest in 4A. We were the lowest in 5A.
Well, somebody's got to have that.
But then I look at their sectional, and it's just like that is a gauntlet for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What I like being in 5A is everybody get that bye, and it serves dividends when, let's say, if you have an injury. We wrap up the season with Carroll week 9. That's going to be a battle for us. Right. So it's nice to be able to come out of that game and get a week off. So bodies can recover, and we get a full 2 weeks to prepare. For whoever we draw for sectionals. But either way, whether we was going to move down to 4A or stay in 5A, whatever, the goal is still the goal, and we're striving, to win the first sectional that hasn't been done in, 34 years. And ultimately, we want the big prize, and that's where we're going to continue to work hard and, strive for it and get the program there.
My last question, Coach. We had Coach Kurt Tittman on last week to preview the Warren Central game, and had a chance for him to talk about some of assistant coaches and Ryan Mormon and stuff. Break down for the people out there how you feel about your assistant coaches. Jeff and I know, but let everybody, the people out there, know how important the Larry Davises are in that to the Northside program.
I couldn't do this job without Larry Davis. The way I've been doing it, effective as I am with it. Larry has just been, he was the one that told me to apply for the job. I was the OC when Mike Bavard, moved on to St. Francis. I thought I was just going to be done. And he was the one that believed in me and was just like, I think you're the guy for it, man. You should go for it. And just that conversation, Larry is also just one of those guys that he don't care about getting no credit. He's coached DBs. He's been the quarterback's coach. He's been the offensive coordinator. He's the defensive coordinator this year. Jalen Smith has been helping us a lot, and he's kind of been letting just Jalen do his thing, and he's fine with it. Like Larry is the type of guy, like he called our freshman offense last year because we had a great freshman class, and he just was like, it has to be ran right. And there's no egos with him. Like that guy can be a head coach if he wanted to. I would help him become a head coach, but he's just like, as long as you want me on your staff, I'm with you. And it's he's always there. We go to the basketball games together, track meets together, support the kids. You see Larry, he's going to be in Northside head to toe. He's like a walking Northside billboard. But it's not just Larry though, man. I got some really great guys around us, man. And they, with our staff, we don't have support staff. So what people don't see is not only are we coaching, but our coaches coach all three levels. We coach the varsity, we coach the JV, we coach the freshmen. On Friday nights, our coaches are the setup crew, the tear down crew when it comes to the huddles, sideline stuff, the end zone cameras. It's just they do everything, man. And you don't do this, for no money. We don't get rich, being high school, coaches. And
right.
I couldn't do this without them. I let them know all the time that I appreciate them because, with what's going on right now in the world, it's easy to just say, I'm not sacrificing my family for other people's kids, and I'll just be willing to make sure my household is fine. But these guys are decided to help me build something that hasn't been done in a very, very long time. And I appreciate them. It's easy to go jump in a program that's been established with the tradition and stuff like that. And what we're trying to do, it takes a lot more work in those guys. I love them. I love them to life, and they always there. And they're very consistent with the kids and relationship building. And if you don't have guys like that, you just won't be successful. The successful programs, it's not about the head coach. It's about the guys that surround them, and those are guys that, make the program. And that's on all levels of football, college, NFL. The head coach can't do everything. My job is the administrator role. Like I got to make sure kids are eligible. Did you go to class? I'm dealing with the conflicts, the complaints. I don't get to really do just X's and O's like I used to when I was just the offensive coordinator. Just my plate is more so, did you get your physical? How was you in class today? There's an issue, is there a conflict? And those guys are kind of like running practice while I'm fitting a new kid for a helmet because a freshman decided they want to play and give it a chance. And now I'm in there trying to fit them equipment. Those guys are out there, running the practice. And, I appreciate them, man, because you can't do this thing alone. And you need an army of like-minded individuals around you. And Larry is one of those guys for sure.
Great player, played against him when he was a star at Snyder. He was a safety that they did.
All-American.
Yeah, they had to move him over to quarterback because Larry was that type of player too. He could do anything for you. And then ended up playing with Adrian Reese at Ball State.
Like he tell the kids all the time, and the kids look at him and they laugh like you wasn't good. And I just be like, Larry, please put on the tape and show these dudes you was Michael Vick before Michael Vick. Like you like the kids, because just Larry is just so like down to earth. He don't really talk about the things that he accomplishes as a player. Yeah. So when he does talk about it, the kids kind of look at him like, yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, go grab that VHS tape. Let's pop it in so they can just see, the man wore number 1 at Snyder. We all know what that means.
Yes.
And he was an electric player, man. Started, at safety as a sophomore. And I mean, he was an All-American. Yeah. Ain't nothing more you could say. Went to Ball State, played receiver. The guy was good, man, and I'm just happy that he's family first and foremost, and he's with me, man. He got a few years on me, and
We all do.
It's
Ben.
just
Yeah. You're the
it's
young
funny to
bucks
hear him
right
say
here.
like, "I work for you." It's just like, okay.
Well, Coach, my last question is, when the guys get off the bus and maybe the energy's not there, or you're feeling like they're a little bit lethargic during the game, is there one guy that you can go to on the sideline that you can just whisper in his ear, "Come on, man, we need to get these guys up, man. You need to spark these guys." Is there one guy that you can really point to, or do you have a collection of guys?
It's Tobias Delaney. Are we talking kid or are we talking a coach?
Kid, player.
Okay, Tobias Delaney is that one. His voice travels, okay. And he's the one, like, a couple years it was Doty. But this year it's Tobias Delaney. Tobias Delaney is the one that gets the kids going. Josh Masasa was another one too, but Tobias Delaney is definitely the one that he's that spark that once he open up his mouth, he controls the whole room, and the kids listen to him. So he's that one that like during the Northridge game, it was kind of feeling like it was going that way, and I had to tap him on the shoulder like, "Come on, man. I need you to spark him." And he did that, and it started with the offensive line. Him and Vonsi, man, they got up under that tent with Coach LB, and them dudes just came out just after the first half. We ran just like our zone play to Caleb, and Caleb housed that thing like 70 yards, and it was just on from there.
I cannot wait to see it this Friday at Chambers Field. And we're a 7 p.m. start. Is that right? Are we 7:30?
I believe we're 7 p.m.
Yeah, that's what we got on the schedule.
I believe we're 7 p.m.
But and Coach, Tim and I thought the exact same thing. This is the game that we want to see. We want to see North up against a school more than twice the size and see how they can compete, because we know that you can compete and that your guys are going to put on a show on Friday night. We're excited to see it, Coach.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for y'all to be there again. I appreciate y'all for having me. Appreciate everything that y'all do. First and foremost, I know y'all sacrifice a lot for these kids and the whole Northeast Indiana. So appreciate y'all guys, and just keep it up.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Well, everybody, that was head coach Ben Johnson, Northside, in his 4th year, really putting together a program there. Every single year, Northside has a couple kids that you just have to pay attention to and you want to know more about. So, Coach, we thank you for joining us. On behalf of Tim Atkinson, I'm Jeff Mahoney. Folks, have a great rest of your week and get rested up for Friday night. And we'll see you at Chambers Field for Lawrence North and Northside. Thanks again for everybody, and have a great night.
Come out and see the turf.
Yeah, I was waiting for that red turf, but we didn't get it, Coach.
Nah.
Man, I wish that would have been beautiful, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would have been something. So take care, everybody, and good luck on Friday, Coach.
Good luck, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.